Hey folks, Jackdaw here. The Witcher 4 is happening. We've got a cinematic teaser, we've got a brand new medallion, and for the first time ever, we're getting a Witcher game not led by Geralt of Rivia, but by Cirilla Fiona Elen Rianno. Now, The Witcher has always been as much Ciri's tale as it is Geralt's, but now it's entirely hers. A source, a child of elder blood, once hunted across realms, now mutated by choice, and officially the protagonist of a brand new trilogy. This is not just a sequel, but the start of a new saga. But what does it actually mean for Ciri to be the protagonist now? How much of The Witcher 3's ending still actually matters, if anything? And after everything, we have to ask ourselves, does Ciri still have her powers? Or did the trial of the grasses change everything? Let's break it down. Lore, gameplay hints from the trailer, world-hopping powers, and what it really means now that Ciri is no longer running from destiny, but instead choosing her own. The first Witcher 4 breadcrumb came in the form of a medallion buried in the snow. Not a wolf, not a cat, but strangely a lynx. And in the Game Awards trailer, we saw Ciri wearing this medallion. She was alone in a northern wilderness now known to us as Stromford. Older, wiser, and somewhere between 23 and 32, Ciri is clearly changed. Now, regarding this medallion, CDPR's own storefront confirmed it. This is indeed a lynx, which is wild because the School of the Lynx doesn't actually exist in Sapkowski's books. It's not a deep cut from the games either. This is something new, entirely different. Now, in The Witcher 3, Ciri wore a cat school medallion, one she took off the corpse of Leo Bonhart, the Witcher hunting maniac who nearly killed her in the books. She kept this cat medallion as a trophy. So what if her cat medallion was reforged? What if the lynx is the cat reborn? Just like Ciri now herself. A new school, a new path, built from the bones of the old. Just like the school of the cat, now becoming the school of the lynx. Just as the Lady of Space and Time becomes one of the first few successful female witches. It tracks, in my opinion, especially given that by the time Wild Hunt rolled around, most of the Witcher schools had either fallen into ruin or faded into myth. So whether she founded this new school or it's just symbolic of her herself, this lynx tells us something important. Ciri is not following in Geralt's footsteps. She's indeed making her own path. And that brings us to the next major revelation. There is no longer a maybe. There is no more speculation. Ciri has indeed undergone the trial of grasses. You can see it in her eyes. Golden, feline, unmistakably a witcher. And this is huge. In the books and The Witcher 3, Ciri was trained like a witcher, but never mutated. Her powers always came from within, from her elder blood. Now, the trials themselves were lost after Kaer Morhen fell in Wild Hunt, and even Vesemir himself wouldn't bring them back. Too dangerous, too cruel. And yet, here we are, clearly Ciri undergoing the trial of grasses. Now, executive producer of The Witcher 4, Malgorzata Mitrigar, confirmed that this was very much a conscientious story-first decision. They said this was a huge thing for us, to make that call to mutate Ciri, not only for her, but for the game. We'll actually see this happen. According to the Answer Red podcast, CDPR has confirmed we will all witness Ciri's mutation during the game. So how did she survive it? Was it a brand new process entirely? Did her elder blood make her strong enough to endure what kills most? Was it voluntary? Was it a forced decision? We don't know, but we do know that we're going to witness this barbaric process firsthand. Either way, Ciri is a witcher now, fully steel and silver, mutated, Zirel on her back. And this is where things get a bit red flaggy, a bit tricky as we enter skeptical potential retcon territory. Because at the end of The Witcher 3, you had a choice. Well, technically you made a dozen smaller choices that then snowballed into one of the three major endings for Ciri. The first one, she becomes a witcher, of course, rejecting the throne and walking the path. Secondly, she became Empress, embracing her heritage and taking Nilfgaard's crown. Thirdly, she died, lost to the White Frost, never returning at all. Now, it's pretty clear which which ending CDPR is canonizing. Ciri didn't die, and she didn't become Empress. She instead chose the path. She has become a Witcher. And narratively, that does of course make sense. It's the ending that fits the next chapter best. But it does mean we're now stepping into a fixed continuity, something that the Witcher games have always danced around but never fully committed to. I'll admit it does sting a tiny bit. My version of Ciri, my ending of The Witcher 3, is now essentially overwritten in the grand scheme of things. So it does raise a few questions. Is this the only choice that CDPR is codifying? Or is this the start of a trend that's going to render all of our previous decisions moot? And what does that mean for previous trilogy characters? Speaking of which, let's talk about the obvious. Geralt's story is 100% behind us, but he's still here somehow. Doug Cockle, Geralt's voice actor, confirmed it. The White Wolf will appear in some capacity in The Witcher 4. But what kind of role will he play? Mentor, narrator, ghost from the past? Will he be a dandelion type figure, telling Ciri's story from the sidelines? Or instead, is CDPR setting him up for an inevitable passing of the torch that's going to end with his dramatic death? Hopefully not that. Blood and Wine was the perfect send-off for Geralt and his story. I am honestly not expecting much beyond his narration throughout the game. He deserves a happy retirement with Yennefer, and with Ciri at the centre now, with years since the events of Wild Hunt, you do have to wonder how much room is actually left for Geralt. No, let sleeping dogs lie, in my opinion. And in a similar capacity to that, CDPR has made one thing clear. Ciri is not Geralt 2.0. She's faster, looser, less grounded. You could say she is literally the difference between a lynx and a wolf. And in the trailer, we saw her land an acrobatic somersault after a sword strike. Powell Berzer on the Answered podcast pointed it out specifically. You don't see Geralt doing these things. He's nimble, but he feels like a block. She's like liquid compared to him. And that difference matters, according to game director Sebastian Kalemba. She moves like she was raised by wolves in Kaer Morhen. That comes from her personality, her posture, and stuff. She also wields a chain now, one that can be magically enhanced with different elements. Add to that a full Witcher moveset, fast-paced combat, signs, though more complex than Geralt's, potion use, dual blades, her steel and her silver, and you're looking at a new kind of Witcher entirely. Now, according to Kalemba, Ciri's not just following the path, she's rewriting it. She's about to become a Witcher, he said. She's forming her own code on her own terms. And Kalemba also confirmed Ciri's younger age compared to Geralt gives players more freedom. She's not locked into decades of precedent. She's still figuring things out, which means we get to shape what kind of Witcher she becomes. Now yes, CDPR knows that some people do not love the switch to play as Ciri, but as the game director and executive producer both said to IGN, this was always going to be her story. It was always about her, starting from Saga when you read it in the books. She's an amazing layered character, and of course, as a protagonist, we said goodbye to Geralt previously, so this is a continuation. I guess for all of us, it's like she was meant to be. That was always her. Now we come to the big one. Ciri's Elder Blood gave her the ability to travel between dimensions, whole other realities. It made her so unique and so dangerous, henceforth so sought after. Or at least it has been. In The Witcher 3, she mentioned cities made of glass, flying ships, soldiers with guns and steel and fire. She has been to other realities, other timelines. It's how she escaped the Wild Hunt. It's part of who she is, or at least who she was. So, can she still do that? Does she still have her world-hopping powers? Well, in the Witcher 4 trailer, so far, we didn't see it. No teleporting, no portals, just swords and signs. So what has happened to her powers? Did the Trial of Grasses actually suppress her magic? Did she have to give them up? Or is CDPR saving her powers for a much later reveal, either marketing-wise or in the story? Because personally, I think if she is scaled back entirely, there's a risk of losing what made Ciri feel so electric in the first place. But in the opposing direction, if they lean into it massively, if we get to slip between worlds, fight monsters across realities, maybe even glimpse the future, this would push The Witcher into completely uncharted territory. A brilliant move for an all-new saga, like a fantasy meets sci-fi, the kind of narrative that only Ciri could lead. In my opinion, this would be a welcome change, a proper shift. But who knows, that is one to watch out for. So where is all this heading? The truth is, we don't know. Not really. We've seen the trailer, you know, she's a Witcher now. We know she's older, stronger, not running from fate anymore. And we know CDPR has chosen to canonize the path where she picks up the sword, not the crown. But what happens next? That's where things could really get interesting from a story POV, because here's the thing. In the books, Ciri doesn't get her big Witcher moment. In fact, she doesn't really get a big moment of an ending. She doesn't stay to fight, she doesn't reclaim Sintra, and she doesn't become the grand savior of the world. Instead, she leaves. She slips between worlds, meets the literal Knights of the Round Table, and rides off to Camelot. It's symbolic, but also deeply ambiguous. Did she just reject prophecy entirely? Was she running away again? Or did she just want a peaceful life with a Knight of the Round Table? We don't know. Sapkowski gave us smoke, but no answers. And that's quite underwhelming, honestly. But CDPR has always told their own versions of this world, their own story. They've always leaned into letting players define what destiny means to Ciri as well. At least they did before they decided to canonize one of her endings, but we'll pass that one for now. CDPR have a rare opportunity to finish Ciri's arc on their own terms. And what we do know so far, thanks to CDPR's latest earnings call, this isn't just going to be a quick sequel to cash in on nostalgia, but The Witcher 4 is officially the studio's largest active production, with over 400 developers currently working on it. This is their main focus. All roads are leading here, and they're not rushing it either. CDPR is taking a much more measured approach this time, scaling teams gradually, refining pipelines, and avoiding the kind of overcommitment that hurt Cyberpunk 2077's launch. But of course, the main thing to know, don't expect a release before 2027. CDPR has been upfront about that. There's not going to be a big massive marketing ramp up, no slow drip of screenshots coming this year at all. Instead, it's going to be more focused internal development, and then they will market it within a 12-year window when all according to plan. And that is probably the right call, again, given the mistakes made on Cyberpunk 2077's own marketing stages. But equally, this isn't just going to be Witcher 4, this is the start of something bigger, and if they do stick the landing, with Ciri being at the centre, it could end up being a worthy Witcher saga that we didn't even know we were waiting for. So, maybe this new trilogy will see Ciri fully embrace her powers. Maybe they're completely gone and we're telling a much more grounded story with Ciri years later on from the events of Wild Hunt. Maybe she becomes the kind of Witcher the world's never seen before. One who doesn't stay neutral politically. One who doesn't play by every single rule, or not defined so narrowly by the Witcher code, but one who defines her own path entirely. Or maybe, just maybe, they're gonna lean exactly into the ambiguity of the books, with Ciri galloping on a horse off to Camelot to meet her Knight of the Round Table. Perhaps if they do an ending with Ciri walking away one last time, maybe this time we'll understand why. Regardless, whatever path they choose, I just hope we finally get to see Ciri, not as a prophecy or a pawn or a portal hopping mystery, but as a person, flawed, powerful, angry, kind, her choosing her own fate, for once, of course, through our own actions. That to me is the future of The Witcher. But what are your thoughts? Are you excited to slip into the shoes of the Lady of Time and Space now as a Witcher, delving into this next venture in the continent, if we are even still in the continent, of course? Let me know all of your thoughts down below and more as we follow the slow development of The Witcher 4 very, very closely. You're in the right place for the latest on The Witcher 4 and many other fantasy RPGs. Until the next one, I have been Jackdaw, and I should go. Whoa, 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 whoa.